Hey guys, it's Brandon, otherwise known as BDog. I'm from the United Kingdom. I've been casting since January 2022, and I went full time in September 2022. So still quite new to the space, still looking to obviously keep learning and growing. I've only been casting in Counter-Strike. That's the only game I really love, and that's the only game that I can only see myself casting. I first got introduced to video games just kind of like any other kid in the UK, right? You kind of get like a Game Boy bought for you, and I think I was like 6 or 7. I think the first proper little game console that was actually mine was the Game Boy Advanced, and I was playing Pokemon on that for ungodly hours on end. And yeah, just kind of fell in love with it ever since. And first specifically kind of getting into Counter-Strike and PC games and Steam was actually in 2014, so we're actually approaching 10 years since I've been converted to the PCs. I used to be like, oh, I'm never playing PC. I've got my PlayStation, I've got Call of Duty, that's all I need for the rest of my life. But fortunately, my friends in college, they had other ideas, and then we all started playing Counter-Strike together, and I've been hooked ever since. Favorite video game as a kid? Well, there was a couple I like playing on the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2. There was obviously PlayStation 1. You got to talk about Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. That's an elite game. That's very niche. Only some people will get that, but that's a great one. When it came to like PS2, it's got to be like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Incredible game. I got hooked into like combat and like fighting games with like RPG like elements to it like since that game. That was awesome. And I remember being stuck on the first boss for genuinely like weeks, but I was a kid, right? I was like 8, so I didn't know what I was doing, but that was fun. And then Ratchet and Clank as well, that entire Ratchet and Clank series on PlayStation as well. Incredible games. Filled my childhood with very good memories, a lot of nostalgia thinking about Ratchet and Clank and Pokemon as well. And yeah, those were mainly the games that I used to play when I was a kid. It was nothing FPS, it was nothing like shootery, it was all just like story games and like RPGs. So there's actually several ways I could answer this question, but one of them makes a lot more sense later on, kind of in like the story and the question, so I'm gonna save it for then. But you gotta keep watching to find out what that bit is. But the other one I'd have to say, just through my friends at college. They introduced me to Counter-Strike first off, then we started playing MM. I was terrible. I used to play Counter-Strike on a iMac. I had 12 FPS, and I was like silver like 2 when I first got the game, and that was unbearable. But instead of me playing, I then started watching. There was like a watch tab on Counter-Strike. I was one of the people that actually found esports through the Counter-Strike like watch tab in game, and then I started watching esports. I remember going to like my grandparents' houses, and I was watching like the major just on my phone because like they didn't really understand what was going on, and I was like, well, I want to watch this. This seems pretty cool. So first contact on Counter-Strike esports was through the game itself. There's no real idea that attracted me to take professional gaming seriously, because that sounds like I wanted to be a player, and the only time I ever wanted to be a player, I guess, in my career would be when I was a lot younger, like when I was like 13, 14, and it wasn't even in Counter-Strike, right? I used to play Call of Duty, and I used to like be involved in like clan stuff in Call of Duty, and I used to play that like pretty regularly, and I was actually pretty decent at it. Wasn't amazing, but like there was definitely like potential there, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do that. And then I was like, no, people don't make money from that. People can't make a career out of playing esports. That's silly. So I didn't do it. But I guess the other hand, and the other side of the coin, it's like what attracted to the idea of taking professional gaming seriously. It was when I first started casting. I was doing it alongside my full-time job, and when the opportunities kept coming with this, I was like, wow, there's actually real potential here that I could become a caster, and this could be my full-time job. And it's incredible to think that it could ever become it, because I'm talking and I'm constantly watching a game that I absolutely love, and a game that I've been very invested in for a number of years. So I think it's when I first started actually doing it, that's where the ideas started to develop about, well, actually this could become something. But it was never the intention of, when I first started casting it was never the intention of, oh, I'm going to become a caster, I know I'm going to do it full time, I know I'm going to be like good enough to be able to make money from it. It was always just, I love this game, I got the opportunity to cast the game. It was actually through Green Renard. He gave me my first like casting opportunity to work with him, and I was like, this sounds fun, let's just run with it and let's see what happens. Oh, what a difficult question. Do you know what's worse is that I didn't even come up with my nickname, and my nickname is BDog, right? Like, I didn't come up with that. I felt at the time like I was so like non-creative. I was like, I don't know what to call myself. On Steam, my name for like 7 years was just Brandon, right? That's all it was. I gamed under my name, which was cool. I'm glad I could do that on Steam, but it was a Mirage Clutch. I don't like Mirage. I gotta throw that in every interview. But it was a Mirage Clutch. It was a 1v5, and I was playing with some of my friends, and I clutched up. Not quite as many times as Ryko, but I clutched up 1v5, and they were all just screaming BDog, and I was like, sure, there we go, name sorted. I was like, that was easy. So I didn't actually come up with my nickname, and my nickname is 4 letters, but the B obviously stands for Brandon, and then D is, well, dog is dog. I don't know. Okay, so this question is kind of what I was alluding to all the way back when I talked about my first contact with esports. And I guess, look, this is 2 parts. For like most of my answers, they're 2 parts. You've got when I actually wanted to cast, and you've got the idea that casting could ever be a thing. And this is a fun story that I'm sure he won't mind me sharing, and I've said this publicly on Twitter as well, so like this is not new information, but it's still a fun story. I remember when I was first playing Counter-Strike, obviously, as mentioned, I was playing on a really bad computer. I was playing with my friends. We were like silver at the time. It was 2014. It was dark days for BDog and his squad in MM, and one of my friends was like, we need help. And it doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, but there was a subreddit called r/AdopterSilver. And basically, you can make a post and you can say, hey guys, like, we're terrible at the video game. Can someone come and help us? So my friend was like, I'm going to make a post. I'm going to see what happens. And my friend made a post. The person that replied to the post and the person that adopted me and my friend was Hugo Byron. So that's my first contact in esports. I guess that was when he first started out as well. He was just starting his casting journey. But yeah, I've been friends with Hugo for coming up to 10 years. So that's a cool story, and it's just kind of a full circle kind of thing. And obviously, so casting and like the idea of it has always been in the background, but I was never really focused on casting. I thought, oh, I couldn't do that. That's not for me. I'll focus on my studies. I did accountancy, and then I went into an accountancy job, and I always did that, but I was always gaming with the boys and like speaking to other casters and stuff. So it's always been in the background. It's always been, I guess, I've always been permanently in contact with esports since I've been playing Counter-Strike. And I guess this answers the second part of the question, because he's definitely my inspiration for it, because he's always given the belief, and he's been a very good friend throughout the years. And it's very amazing to kind of see his progression as well and see how far he's come. So that's definitely been a factor. When I to answer the question in a literal sense, how did I decide to start casting? Well, I was in between jobs. I had a month where I was gonna start my new job, so it was January 2022. I had the entirety of January off, kind of like a player break, but for different reasons. And I was speaking to Grimmy Renard, and he was like, hey, would you be interested in maybe casting? And I said, sure, look, I've got some free time, like I'd be down to try it out, and if I'm not very good, then let's not worry about it, but it'll be fun, let's try. So that's kind of the origin stories of how I started casting. It was through that. And I've known Freddie years as well. Like I've known him like 6-7 years, so it's nice to kind of have these friendships that have actually kind of evolved now into kind of career like plans and just part of the journey of being a caster, right? So that's kind of where I first started to decide to start casting, and then I decided to transition full-time because it was going a little bit crazy, and I was like, sure, like why not? Like what's the worst that can happen? Let's give this a go. And yeah, now I'm here. There's been several. I think if you said first memorable moment, there's two that stand out, but the very first one was getting a message, getting an email to be part of the ESL Impact broadcast team. And I got that email and I was stunned, because that was in March last year, and it was a lot of trust, a lot of responsibility, and it's been phenomenal, and I'm so proud to be part of that product, and it's really good seeing that scene develop as well. We've got a lot of promising teams, a lot of promising players that are now getting opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise had, and it's all thanks to that circuit. So I think that's my first memorable moment, is definitely receiving that and thinking, wow, this is a lot of trust being placed on me, and I know I want to do a damn good job. I think, if I'm being honest with you, there's a lot of achievements that I'm really proud of. Like, I'm proud to be working full-time in casting. I think that's an incredible achievement. I'm really proud to say that I've worked an RMR and I've worked an S-tier event. I'm really proud to say that I consistently work all of the CCT circuit as well, and I'm grateful for that. I'm sorry that you guys have to put up with me on a near daily basis at times, but that's just kind of how it is at the moment. And I guess, literally, to answer your question, if I had to pick one of those, it would definitely be the RMR. I think that that's a really big achievement, and one that I'm gonna look back on, and obviously I hope more of them continue, but for now I'm really proud with that. And yeah, I can't wait to see what the future holds. I think there's funny in a literal sense, and there's funny like, oh god, like what is going on. I think what's nice is in CCT, working with these guys, that you kind of get to know them really well, and as a result you can kind of start to like flex and have like some fun on the broadcast. There's some really just stupid stuff that gets said sometimes, but it's always a good laugh. I think if you want to think literally, I think the funniest stories of me casting, there's some terrible ones when I first started out. Like they're actually just like, you can go back and listen and laugh about how terrible they were when I first started out. Like Freddie will tell you, I remember we VOD reviewed once, so we just sat there, like my head was in my hands, and I was like, what am I doing here? Like, this is just, it's not ideal, but everyone's got to start somewhere. I think there's one in particular that I know, where I was working with Sneaky Beaky, and it was I don't know how we got on this tangent. Tom loves a tangent, but like we were talking about like the famous five or the Fantastic Five. Like it's just a series of books. I can't remember which one's right, but whatever it was, I told him it was the other one, and he believed it for like 15 minutes. And it kind of got to the point where it was something so simple, but like it broke his brain, and then he just couldn't focus for like 30 minutes. But it was. See, the thing is, it's difficult with these questions because it's like, what's the funniest story? And I'm telling it, and it just sounds so dry. Like but it was one of those. You gotta be there, right? You gotta be in the moment. You gotta enjoy what's going on. It's like I can remember this, and it was funny to me because I was there. But now I'm explaining this to a viewer, and you're probably thinking like, wow, that's so funny. You got such a good sense of humor. I think there's some funny if you take a step back beyond casting, you've got like events, UK LAN events that I've been to, and I guess I casted at, so I guess we can kind of, that's a loose thread we can go on. There's some great LAN stories that I remember. I can't say any of them because it's not fair, but there's some good LAN stories there. And then obviously when I cast with my duo Lucy as well, we kind of get a little bit silly, and there's some times that where we've worked together so much, she'll know exactly what to say that will just, it won't even be funny. Again, it won't be funny to like the majority of people, but like it will just tickle me a certain way, and I kind of like break for, I get not character because I'm just me when I'm casting, but like you kind of break out of the like. You're thinking so much about the game, and then it's like one thing that gets said, and suddenly you're just out for like 30 seconds. And it's always fun casting with a lot of people like in the circuit. It's a lot of fun casting with Tom. It's a lot of fun casting with Ryan as well. Ryan loves to go on tangents and tech pauses. We like to look for silly little faces on the maps, and then it's like, oh, you can't unsee it now. But yeah, stuff like that. I'm gonna cop out here, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna remove unexpected out of the question, right? Well, it's a cool moment you've experienced in your esports career, and there's just so many of them. So I'm such a cool guy. But I gotta say the one thing, and I guess I'm gonna use this as a little bit of a platform now, and that is if you're able to, go to a Counter-Strike event at some point in your life. It doesn't matter which one it is, as long as you go, because they are incredible. The atmosphere, the fans, the passion, the gameplay is incredible. I was fortunate enough to be at IEM Cologne last year in 2022, and that was the FaZe Na'Vi Grand Final, the incredible Grand Final, and the atmosphere in there was electric. I don't think I've ever felt more alive, and it kind of all clicked with me there as well. And actually, IEM Cologne, that was the event where I was like, I'm doing this full time. I've got to give it a go. It was the most incredible atmosphere. Words can't even describe the feeling and the excitement and the passion of all of the fans. And it's something that every single person, if they are able to, should go and experience. So I've completely derailed this question, and I've completely taken over, but I don't care. It's just that was a cool moment, and it'd be great if you guys can make some memories with CS events as well, because it's always amazing just meeting people and hearing their stories. I remembered another one as well, and it says esports career. It doesn't say casting, right? And I've got to get them in here. We went to Epic LAN. It's a big LAN in the UK, and the bin men, made it out of groups. We did the impossible. No one thought we'd do it, but we did it, and we're the only bin men team to ever reach playoffs out of Epic, and that was unreal. We got carried. Shout out Ali Bond. He was unreal. Literally one of the GOATs. But yeah, me and Ryan are on Wikipedia as players at a UK LAN in the playoffs. So there we go. Unexpectedly cool. That's a really difficult one to answer, right? I think ultimately my main goal is to just work every single day to become the best possible caster I can become. And I am trying my best to work on that every single day, and hopefully we can get there. And I can already see the improvement, and I know the development, and it's a long journey, and I'm excited for it because I know it's gonna be a few years in the making, but we're gonna get there. And the ultimate aspiration obviously is to one day cast a Counter-Strike major, and I'm hoping that can happen at some point in my career. But that is the pinnacle, right? Casting in the arena, casting in front of all the fans for the pioneer event in your video game franchise. So that's my main aspiration, and that's what I want to work to. That's number one. But when it comes to just everything else, when it just comes to daily goals, daily aspirations, it's just keep working on myself, keep believing in what I'm doing as well, and keep trusting the process, making sure that I've got a healthy work-life balance. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just kind of work on all areas, and yeah, just try and be the best caster I possibly can be. That's the main goal. Alright, well, that was the interview. Obviously, some of the questions I didn't answer properly. I derailed them, but that's fine. If you know me, that's kind of what I'm like. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you did like this content, make sure you go and check out the other videos. There's a talent spotlight on all of our other content creators here at CCT. The links will be down below, but make sure you go and watch all of those, because everyone's got their own unique story, and it's really good to kind of get a little bit on us, right? Because you hear our voices all the time. It's good to kind of know the person behind the microphone. So thank you very much. Make sure you go and check out, obviously, the CCT circuit. Make sure you follow all of the socials, and if you want to follow me on Twitter as well, why not, right? At BDog CSGO for all horrible takes of Counter-Strike Global Offensive.